Hello, my name is Sam Moffat, and I'm here with yet another Tapforms 5 scripting tutorial video using Tapforms 5 for Mac and iOS. Now, we've got a forum post here from Antonio asking the best approach to implement searchable array of text. And what we're going to do is actually what I suggested here, which is to create a tag form and to use that to link stuff together. Before we get too far in, Brendan also has a suggestion that you can use the multi-value popover field with items and then use uh, um, exact quotes to search for exact matches for the items that you have. But I'm gonna go with creating a little tag database. If you've watched the previous video or some of the other videos, you'll know that I have this test YouTube document that I use, and we're going to use that again. We're going to build on the last video that I worked on, which was a basic introduction into creating a brand new form, creating a script to join the preferred name and the family name together, and a little tick box to control if the family name should be first or not, and also some work with a link to form field and a table field. So what we will do here is add a brand new tags field. Now this is very similar to what we did with hobbies, but we're going to do something slightly different. So let's get started, and we will create our new form and we'll call it tags. And we will create our field here and we'll just call it tag name. Now, what we're going to implement here is a link to form many to many, and it doesn't actually matter which way it goes, because many to many allows multiple records to be linked to multiple other records, and that relationship can be shared. In the previous one, we modeled the one-to-many, which is very similar to how the table field operates. But the problem there was that it could be stolen, if you will, between different records if the same record was selected. So it's not always a great one to do, but it is a way of doing things. Now, in this example, we're going to use a many-to-many field. It doesn't really matter which way we go, but for completeness, I like to try to go from the main form or the parent form to the secondary form, and in this case context is the most important field, so we're going to create a new link to form field, and we're going to call it tags, and then we're going to link many to many to our tags form, and there we go, we've got our tags name. And now if we have a look in here, we'll create a tag and we'll call it self, and we'll create another tag and we'll call it friend. And what we're going to do is go back to contacts, and we're going to make sure we tick that show inverse relationship. Now what show inverse relationship does, and if we go back to our tags field, we'll now see this contacts field. Let's get rid of this. Oops, wrong one. Oh yeah, there we go. I can't make that smaller. Okay, let's make this bigger. There we go. So we can see now that we have our contacts field that is now automatically created. And now we'll bring this back, and we'll see that this is the special link from form type that we can't normally select because Tapforms internally manages it. So one of the powerful things in Tapforms is we can actually control in these views, and also in the multi-column list view up here, which fields are displayed. And we do that by, oops, wrong one, by selecting this item here and then selecting which one we want to have. So we'll just tick on that and hit save. And now that contacts field has disappeared. You'll notice when I clicked before on this, I clicked on the table field, and you can see that this is another way to get to your table editing, and this is our other link to form. You can also use this if you want to reorganize the field list. So we can hit save, and that only impacts on this view. If we go into it, we still have that same item. This also works obviously in your multi-column list view, and actually what we will do is make it look like that. Actually, click on the tick box before we hit save. Sweet. And we'll get rid of that other field. Okay, so now that we've created our many-to-many, what we can do is we can put in this, and we can put in friend. And we can see that those two tags are linked together. If we go to John, we'll put John down as a friend. Now, if we double click on tags, we can see all of these items. Maybe we don't want to see all of these fields. Let's just do composed name, and then active hobbies tables, let's say. And we'll ignore the rest. Make that a little bigger. So we can see, just the ones that we care about as our tag item. And we can only see one tag here. Now, one of the really cool things is when we're in this particular view, and let's go back to how we got here, we're looking at this John Doe record in our contacts form. We double click on the tag record. Now we're in this sub view, and there's this little back button up here. If I create a new record here, and I'll call it associate. Associates. Go for the singular. This record, apart from being, there we go, slightly buggy with the left nav there, is now automatically associated with our Chondo. And then when we click the back button up to here to go back to the record, we'll see that it's now automatically associated. This is actually a sub-view of, or a subset of, all of the records that would normally be in the tags table. And when we go to tags now, we can see that this record has been added. And this is, to be honest, one of the more powerful things about Tapforms, because it means that you can jump in, you can add a bunch of these items. If you have multiple fields, so in this case we've just got tags, but maybe we have a few more fields in here, we can use those extra fields to link together and automatically pull that in and edit this. I personally use a pattern like this in an order and line item sort of setup. So let's have a look at what that looks like. So we'll just go orders and order ID, and then we're going to create one more form, and we're going to call it line items. Oops. And in line items, we're going to have a name field. We're going to create a quantity field. We're going to do a price field. And for our price field, we're going to go down and we're going to make sure that it is in the currency style. And it's going to pick up my default currency. And we're going to make sure that we have 2 decimal places for our that. And then, actually, we should have called that unit price. And we're going to create a calculation field here for total price. And we'll just quickly, calculation fields default to be a number type. So we'll just do that. And we'll do the quantity multiply, whoops, I've got to click away by the unit price. Too easy. Save. Since this is also going to be technically a currency type, and we'll call it, we created 2 forms and it will cost $5 each. So this is just a basic number field. We need to also tell Tapforms that we should format this in the currency style. We want to have 2 decimal places. So let's just do 0 decimal places and just show what that looks like. So we'll do 567. We'll see that Tapforms has rounded that for us. As soon as we go and we put in decimal places and click too many there, we can see that it's 1134 for this. We'll do one more for Tapforms calculation fields. I only did one of those, and they can be $1.23. Sweet. So we've created our 2 line items. We didn't actually link these to our order form, so we should actually do that before we get too far ahead of ourselves. Let's do a link to form. We'll call it line items. And we're going to point to line items. We're going to do one to many for this particular one. And we need to link these together. Last but not least, we also want to tick show inverse form so that it is there. Because we added this field after we set up this table here, because we added the form and then we created the extra field. Tap forms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tap forms will then go update that for us. Now, if we had selected individual items beforehand, it won't do that for us. We can then add an extra thing, a little summary row item, calculations row, and we will make that the total. And that gives us the aggregate value of this particular order item. And this is again a really powerful thing, because you can have a cut down list of fields here, and then you can use this little plus with an arrow button to go in and create a little bit more detailed things. We'll call this tap forms script field. One of those, they're actually expensive. They can be $12.34. Now, one of the issues with this particular situation is that we can't easily sort this. In fact, if you notice, this is sorted by the name. This may be useful for you, but realistically, most of the time, if you're importing third-party content, they usually have their own particular ordering. And so we'll add that, and we'll call it line number. We'll hit enter on that. And we need to go give it a value, and we're going to say forms was first, calculations was second, and script field was third. And I'm going to add one more thing in here, and we're going to do the date created, which is a special field. And I'm actually going to use date created as my default sort field. And the reason for that is as I add items, it'll automatically put that in the right order, as we can see here. So, as I mentioned before, if we select the individual fields and we add a new field, it doesn't automatically show up, and we can see these 2 fields are now at the top here. Let's relocate them, and we will select line number so that we can make sure that that is sorted properly in this particular case. The reason for that is we may wish to, maybe we did a data entry error. If we hit add on this and we just have date created, maybe this is actually 2, this is 3, this is 4, and this is actually 1. And we'll say 2 form fields. Did 2 of those. And they're really cheap. So now when we go back, nice and sorted for us. If we go in here, we can see that it's still in the order that we added them, because it's actually using this sort field. It's using this entry here. Sweet. So we've done that. We've created that. Now, one of the more interesting things is generally we don't want to set the line number manually because, well, I'm lazy. So let's create a script field that, and we'll call it script auto line number. Now what we're going to do here is delete the innards of this, and we're going to use an interesting property of tap forms, which is that we can get to the parent field. Now to do this, we need to go to the parent and then get the child records and count them. So this gets us the field value of the parent, but we need to go back here and we'll create a form script temporarily. And we need to know the ID of this field. So let's just hit enter a couple of times. Line items ID. So we'll cut that, copy that. We'll hit done. I don't want to save this. Delete that. And we're going to go back into this field. We're going to go back to our auto line number. And we're going to put this line items ID. Now what we're actually going to do is line items equals orders dot get field value, and what that's actually going to do is give us the number of children that we have. And what we're just going to do is return line items dot length. We'll hit run on that. And that's 0. Why is that 0? Okay. Live debugging. Okay, so let's see what's in orders. Orders is a form. Let's go a little deeper. Empty. Charming. Okay. Console.log line items. I wonder. Let's just save on this for a second. 5. I know why. Because we need to edit this in the context of the field. That's better. One of the quirks with the script editor is that sometimes record, when we're working with link to form fields, can get disconnected. In that case, it was actually working on the wrong record, which is why it was giving us the wrong value. So we need to jump over to this line items form to edit this. So what we're doing is we're getting the parent record, which is actually what we were originally working on. And then we're using that to get the line items, which is actually these records. And what we're doing is we're counting how many of them there are. And what that does is it tells us how many have been created. Now, it's giving us 5, and that's actually because we'll hit save. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's actually what we expect. And the reason it does this is as we each add an entry, the number of items is set to the current. Now, where this falls apart is if we added this to an existing form where there are values already, because it's going to return that previous value. But in the organic case where we're creating stuff as we go, this will work properly. So, what we're going to do is we're going to log this. Line items dot length, and then what we're going to do is change this line number, or check this line number, and we're going to go if line number, if not line number. So if line number is not set, what we're going to do is record.setFieldValue. We need this field ID. We'll grab that field ID. And then we're going to do line items dot length. What that's going to do is set the value of that updated number to line items dot length. And we're going to set okay. And now what we're doing here is we're updating the value, and we need to do one more thing when we update, which is document.save all changes. Now what that does is we're going to get the parent record. We're going to then get all of the children or all of our sibling line items. I'm going to log that. And then what we're going to do is get the value of this field's line number. And if that's not already set to a value, we're going to update it to the current length. And we're going to hit save on that. And we'll hit refresh. And all going well. Oops. All going well, our line number should be set. But that's not happening. Syntax error. Oh, we made a typo. Let's hit run on this again. Unexpected line 4, because we forgot a closing bracket here. Okay, let's save that, run that. There we go. So we've got some messages here. Now we see the line number is set. Now if I delete this, delete, and we'll go back into here and we'll create a brand new record, we'll note that the line number is already set. But we got this interesting message, did not update line number, already set. And we actually have a look, we can see that this script ran a few times. When a record is created, there's some logic to make sure that the script field runs, and that allows us to make this all work properly. Previously you had to do some changes, but if you are on the latest version of Tapforms, this will happen for you. So we'll do tap line item 1, and those were really expensive. Again, orders has automatically been linked for us, and we can also do a few other things, which is clean this up, because we don't need to see that, except if we're debugging. Let's move the line number a little bit higher up above that order there, and we'll leave this date created field as is. And now we've got this sort of invoicing flow where the line number is automatically generated each time we add a new record, so that our sorting works properly inside this construct. Now you could do a similar thing here with our tags field. If there was some other field or value that made sense, that's something we can do here. Now there is one extra little technique that I probably should demonstrate, and what this is the three-way three-form join. Now it came up that there was a library sort of use case where people would create books, and we'll call this one June, and then they would be linked to authors, and we'll create a second form for this and we'll call it authors, and we'll go for name, and we'll put in Frank Herbert. And the very simple way of modeling this would be to do a link to form again, donc to authors, and then we can search by author. Now this works reasonably well until you have multiple authors, and I'm going to have to cheat here and look up some, not there. We'll stick with the June theme, and we will pick up the Butlerian Jihad. June, the Butlerian Jihad, and who we're going to pick on here is Ryan Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. Now, fortunately for us, these names sort alphabetically correctly. but it's entirely possible that you get to a book where the names don't sort automatically that way. And on different books, these authors have different sortings. And the way that I generally advise people to sort of solve this problem where you need this extra bit of metadata is you create a third form. And we'll call this book author link. And what this is actually going to do is create a link into each of these. So what we're going to do is delete this authors field. We could probably actually reuse it, but we're just going to delete it. I'm going to create a new link to form. I'm going to call it book author link, and we're actually just going to retitle this to be authors. And we're going to hit show inverse relationship. And we're going to go into our authors, and we're going to go the same way, which is to create a new field, link to form. We're going to create book author link. It's a one-to-many field, and then it's into that there. And now we need to go back here. We have our new form. We're going to change this one to be a number field, and I'm going to call it ordering. And we're actually we'll do one differently. We'll call this one book ordering. We'll call this one author ordering. Now these are a little more unique in that what we're actually modeling here is the ability to order the books separately from the authors in terms of how they're displayed within tap forms. So we created our June, so we need to create, and we'll delete this record because it doesn't help us. Delete. We'll go back to our book. I'm going to add a new entry, and when we do that, book is already selected, and we just need to select our author, and we're going to pick Frank Herbert, and we'll put 1 and 1 for that. And so now we see that that's correct. And now here we can actually do a book author link. Actually, we don't want to select that. We want to add a new link, and the author for this is Brian first. We'll do 1 and 1. And then we want to add another link. We'll notice that book is already selected here for us. And we're going to pick Kevin Anderson, and I'm going to book order 1, author order 2. Now when we go back, what we're going to do is use book, author, and then author ordering, because book is already set from this parent field. And then again it's backwards, so we'll hit sort ascending, and now that ordering is correct. And if we add more authors, we can set that up. When we go back to our authors list, we can see that automatically with this book author link, and we're going to rename this again, and we'll call it books. Our book list has been included. We have our book name, we have our author name. So we're going to hide author and then author order, which I just noticed is a text field. We should fix that. And then we can see that now in our book author link. Let's fix this before we forget. In our book author link, we can obviously the field picks up the single column list view settings, but we can also use a calculation field. So what we'll do is we will add a subtitle field. Prequel, I think, is the correct word for that. Let's just set this to 1 just to make sure that it looks the way we expect. So now when we go in and have a look at our link, the Butlerian Jihad, and it's there, what we can do in here is add a calculation field. And with that calculation field, we're going to edit it. We're going to change the type to text, but we can actually double click on this field here. And because the relationship here is one-to-many, when we go from this linking field, there's only ever a single parent. So we can actually just get that value, and we can see that a June prequel is there, and we'll rename that to book subtitle. We can pull in stuff from the author if we wanted to pull in stuff from the author. But now when we go back to our authors list, we have a brand new field called book subtitle that we can add to our list. And that'll automatically update, again, like with the book field, with the title from our other item. And this is a very powerful way of giving yourself sort options, being able to have unique or single entity copies of a particular thing. So in this case, it's authors and books. There's no data duplication because essentially this field is link fields, specific in this case ordering fields. Maybe there was some other value that we care about that is specific to this particular instance of a book and an author linked together. We could model that inside of here, and then obviously we can use our calculation field to project values from either the book or the author's field to be able to display that in the other two fields. So I'm going to end the video here. It's been a bit of an interesting tour through how we can use link to form fields, how we can use some calculation fields, script fields, and a bunch of other options with Tapforms 5 for Mac and iOS. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like. If you have ideas about what you would like to see or comments on the video, leave them in the comments field below. And obviously, if this was interesting for you, subscribe so that you can see more videos. Thanks for watching.